do not watch this alone. The Black Forest is not a haunted place. It is an inhabited one. People who entered looking for stories came back with silence, or didn't come back at all. Some reports were sealed. Some witnesses refused to speak. What you are about to hear was never meant to be connected. The Black Forest stretches across southwestern Germany like a wound that never healed. Dense, ancient, lightless. Roman records describe it as Silva Nigra, the dark forest, and note entire military routes altered to avoid it. Soldiers wrote about disorientation, oppressive silence, and an overwhelming sense of being observed. Even now, sound behaves incorrectly here. Footsteps echo when no one follows. Voices feel closer than they should be. Locals don't say the forest is cursed. They say it is aware. It's a place where the air itself feels heavy, charged with something primal and watchful. Imagine standing under a canopy so thick that midday feels like twilight, and the only sound is the frantic beat of your own heart. You can't shake the feeling that every shadow is moving, that every rustle of leaves is a deliberate step. This isn't just paranoia. It's an ancient instinct, screaming at you that you are not welcome here. The Romans, with all their discipline and might, chose to go around rather than through. They felt it too. They understood that some places are not meant for conquest, not meant for mankind at all. Villages bordering the forest follow unspoken rules. No whistling after sunset. No walking alone at dusk. No answering your name when called from the trees. These customs predate Christianity. They originate from pagan warnings, passed down quietly, whispered from one generation to the next. Elders say the forest remembers faces, and once it notices you, it doesn't forget. These aren't just quaint local traditions. They are survival guides. The rule about not answering your name is particularly chilling. It implies something out there knows you, can mimic the voices of those you trust, and seeks to lure you away from safety. Think about that for a moment. You're walking near the tree line as the sun goes down, and you hear a familiar voice call your name. Your first instinct is to answer, to turn towards the sound. But the villagers know better. They know that what calls from the trees is not a friend. It's a predator wearing a disguise. A very, very old one. The fear is so ingrained that children learn these rules before they learn to read. It's a fundamental part of life on the edge of the woods. Hikers report trails that loop impossibly. Maps fail. GPS glitches. Compasses spin. Some describe losing hours of time without any explanation. Days blend into one another. Others feel compelled to leave the path, not forced, but invited. An almost magnetic pull towards the deepest, darkest parts of the woods. A silent promise of something profound just beyond the next tree. Investigations into missing hikers often stop early. The official reports cite exposure or disorientation, but locals say that's not what happened. They shake their heads and murmur about the forest taking what it wants. Imagine the terror of realizing your compass is useless. Your phone has no signal, and the path you were just on has vanished. You walk for what feels like hours, only to find yourself back at the same strangely shaped rock you passed before. The forest isn't just a place. It's a labyrinth, and it seems to actively rearrange itself to confuse and trap those who wander too far. The feeling of being invited off the path is even more sinister. It suggests a conscious intelligence at play, a subtle manipulation of your own mind, turning your curiosity into a weapon against you. The deeper regions of the forest remain largely undocumented. There are no tourism signs here. No clear boundaries marking where the safe world ends and its world begins. Forestry workers, hardened men and women who know the woods better than anyone, report sudden, debilitating illness when they venture into these areas. A crushing headache, nausea, a profound sense of dread that forces them to turn back. Animals, too, seem to understand. They refuse to enter certain areas. You can see a deer will stop at an invisible line, birds will go silent, and a profound quiet will fall over the woods. Some regions are avoided entirely, even by locals who grew up hunting and foraging in the forest their entire lives. They don't have scientific explanations for it. They just know. They call them still zones, or hollows. Places where the natural order feels broken, where the very air feels wrong. These aren't just legends. They are practical, lived realities for the people who live in the shadow of the Silva Nigra. It's a geography of fear, mapped not on paper, but in the collective memory of the community. The Black Forest is not empty space. It is layered, and what lives there does not rush. It has existed for millennia, long before the first humans dared to build their homes at its edge. It has watched empires rise and fall. It has seen seasons turn, ages pass, and it remains. The silence within its depths isn't emptiness. It's patience. The feeling of being watched isn't your imagination. It's a quiet assessment. It takes its time. It observes. It learns. When someone goes missing, it's not a violent, sudden event. It's a slow, quiet absorption. One moment, they are there, a part of our world. The next, they are gone, a part of the forests. What we perceive as a single, sprawling woodland is actually a series of territories, each with its own rules, its own presence. And as you go deeper, the layers peel back, revealing something more ancient, more alien, than our modern minds can comfortably comprehend. The forest doesn't need to hunt, it just needs to wait. Because sooner or later, someone always gets curious. Someone always ignores the warnings, and the forest is always watching. Have you ever felt like you're being watched in the woods? That feeling isn't new. For centuries, people have reported encounters that defy explanation, experiences woven into the very fabric of folklore. These aren't just ghost stories told around a campfire. They're patterns, recurring events documented across generations. Let's delve into some of the most persistent and unsettling legends that haunt our oldest forests. Imagine walking down a desolate forest road as a storm gathers. Suddenly, you hear the thunder of horse hooves pounding the earth, getting closer and closer. But as the sound races past, you see nothing. No rider, no horse, just the invisible force of its passage. This is the Headless Horseman, a legend far older than Washington Irving's famous tale. Records from as early as the 1600s describe this phenomenon. Witnesses consistently report hearing the phantom gallop just before a storm breaks. The most chilling part, those who are curious enough, or foolish enough, to follow the sound, are never seen on that road again. Sometimes, weeks or months later, their belongings are found deep within the woods, arranged in a strangely neat and deliberate way, as if placed there by an unseen hand. It's a silent testament to their last, fateful journey. Then, there is a figure known as the Forest King. Descriptions of this entity are disturbingly consistent across centuries and cultures. He is described as tall, regal, and crowned with antlers like the branches of an ancient tree. His body appears to be wrapped in bark and moss, a living embodiment of the woods itself. Unlike the terrifying horseman, the Forest King doesn't inspire fear. He invites women, particularly those walking alone, report a sudden sense of calm washing over them, a feeling of being protected and safe. They describe a presence walking beside them, a feeling of deep belonging, as if they have finally come home. Some are tempted by this feeling and follow this silent guide deeper into the trees. A few return, days or even weeks later. They are found disoriented, with dirt caked beneath their fingernails, suffering from severe dehydration, and their memories are fragmented, like a dream they can't quite grasp. The others, they simply become part of the forest, disappearing permanently into its embrace. Perhaps the most visceral of these legends is that of the werewolf. We often dismiss it as pure myth, a Hollywood monster, but in certain isolated communities, it's treated not as a myth, but as a recurring pattern of events. The cycle is grimly predictable. Every so often, men from the village simply vanish, usually around the full moon. Soon after, livestock are found brutally mutilated. The wounds are not the work of any known predator. They are too clean, too precise, too savage. Publicly, The villagers blame wolves to avoid panic and outside interference, but privately, they reinforce their doors and windows, whispering about something far more terrifying. What's truly unsettling is that these disappearances often run in families, the same dates, the same lunar cycles. Generation after generation, a son vanishes, just as his great-grandfather did, bound by a dark, cyclical curse that the community dare not name. Long before the internet gave birth to modern urban legends like Slender Man, there was Großmann, the tall one. This entity has been a fixture in Germanic folklore for centuries. He is described as unnaturally tall and thin, with a featureless face. He is never seen clearly, always standing motionless at the edge of your vision, partially obscured between trees, as if testing the limits of your perception. He never fully steps into the open. Chillingly, it's often children who see him first. They describe a tall, silent man watching them from the woods, who communicates with them without speaking, telling them not to mention his presence. Years later, as adults, they might report seeing the same figure again, even if they've had no exposure to the original folklore in the intervening years. Psychologists have tried to explain it away as a shared cultural fear or a trick of the light, but then the reports started spreading, appearing in places with no historical connection to the original legend, described with the same unnerving detail. What if these beings, the horseman, the king, the werewolf, Großmann, are not separate entities at all? What if they are merely different expressions of a single, ancient consciousness? The forest itself, it's an intelligence that doesn't reveal itself all at once. It's too vast, too old. Instead, it lets you notice it slowly, a piece at a time. The sound of hooves on a lonely road. A feeling of safety where there should be fear. A pattern of violence that defies logic. A silent figure watching from the trees. Each encounter is a glimpse into something much larger, something that has always been there, watching us from the shadows. The forest has its secrets, and maybe, just maybe, it decides who gets to learn them. Stay curious, and perhaps, stay out of the woods after dark. Have you ever heard a noise in your house at night and tried to convince yourself it was just the wind? What if it wasn't? What if someone was there, watching you, waiting? Tonight, we're stepping back in time to 1922, to a remote farmstead, deep in the Bavarian countryside of Germany. This is a story of Hinterkaifeck, a place so isolated, so surrounded by the dense, dark woods, that it became the stage for one of history's most chilling and perplexing unsolved crimes. Imagine living on a farm where your nearest neighbor is over a mile away, where the forest seems to press in on all sides. And the silence is so profound, you can hear every rustle in the undergrowth. This was the world of the Gruber family. But the quiet of their rural life was about to be shattered by an unimaginable horror. A mystery that would leave a permanent scar on the local community and baffle investigators for a century. The Gruber family wasn't what you'd call popular. The head of the household, Andreas Gruber, was a stern and disliked man. Living with him were his wife Cäcilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and her two young children, Cäcilia and Joseph. Also living on the farm was the maid, Maria Baumgartner. Their lives were simple, revolving around the hard work of the farm. But in the months leading up to the tragedy, strange things began to happen. Andreas started telling neighbors about unsettling occurrences. He found a newspaper from Munich on his property, one he'd never purchased. He discovered a set of footprints in the fresh snow, leading from the heart of the forest directly to the farmhouse. But mysteriously, there were no footprints leading away. He heard footsteps in the attic, strange scratching noises that he couldn't explain. He even found his house keys had gone missing. Each event on its own might seem small, but together, they painted a disturbing picture. Someone was watching the farm. Someone was getting closer. The previous maid had quit months earlier, claiming the house was haunted. She felt an unseen presence, a constant sense of being observed. On March 31st, 1922, the new maid, Maria, arrived. It was her very first day at Hinterkaifeck. It would also be her last. The police timeline, pieced together from forensic evidence and witness accounts, is the stuff of nightmares. Investigators believe the killer, or killers, systematically lured the family members into the barn, one by one. The first to go was likely Victoria, followed by her mother Chesalia, her father Andreas, and then her 7-year-old daughter, also named Chesalia. Each was struck down from behind with a mattock, a farm tool similar to a pickaxe. The attacks were swift, brutal, and precise. The killer then moved from the barn into the main house. There, they entered the bedroom of the new maid, Maria, and murdered her in her sleep. Finally, they went to the nursery, where 2-year-old Joseph lay in his cot, and ended his life as well. The sheer methodical nature of the crime is what makes it so terrifying. There were no signs of a prolonged struggle, no screams that alerted the distant neighbors. It was a silent, calculated slaughter. The family was simply erased, one by one, under the cover of darkness. What happened next is perhaps the most bizarre and unsettling part of the entire case. The murderer didn't flee, they stayed. For several days after the killings, the farm appeared to be functioning as normal. Neighbors saw smoke curling from the chimney. They noticed the farm animals, the cows and chickens, were still being fed and cared for. Someone had even eaten meals in the kitchen. It was as if the killer had taken over the farm, living amongst the bodies of their victims, which were left undiscovered in the barn and the house. It wasn't until April 4th, 4 days after the murders, that neighbors grew concerned. The younger Chesalia hadn't shown up for school, and the family hadn't been seen at church. A search party was formed. What they found when they entered the barn was a scene of pure horror. The bodies were stacked and covered with hay. Inside the house, they found the remaining victims. The community was thrown into chaos and terror. Who could have done this? And why would they stay? The footprints leading to the house with no prints leading away suddenly took on a new, sinister meaning. The killer hadn't left because they were already inside. The investigation began immediately, but it was plagued by problems from the very start. The crime scene was contaminated by the dozens of neighbors who had trampled through the property before police secured it. Hundreds of people were interviewed over the years, from traveling salesmen to disgruntled neighbors to former lovers of Victoria. Many theories were proposed. Some believed it was a robbery gone wrong, but a large sum of money was found untouched in the house. Others suspected a personal vendetta, perhaps linked to rumors about the family's private life. One persistent theory focused on Victoria's late husband, Carl Gabriel, who was reported killed in World War I. Some locals whispered that he had never actually died, but had returned to exact some kind of terrible revenge. Investigators even exhumed the bodies of German soldiers to check if Carl was among them, but the theory led nowhere. Every lead turned into a dead end. Every suspect had an alibi or lacked a clear motive. The killer was like a ghost, leaving behind a trail of carnage but no real clues to their identity. As the years turned into decades, the mystery of Hinterkaifeck only deepened, taking on the quality of a dark local legend. The physical evidence began to disappear. The skulls of the victims, which had been sent to Munich for examination by psychics and clairvoyants in a desperate attempt to find answers, were lost during the chaos of World War II. Key case files vanished. The farm itself was demolished a year after the murders, as if to erase the terrible memory from the landscape. But memories are not so easily erased. Local folklore filled the void left by the failed investigation. Stories circulated about a strange, bent figure seen lurking in the woods near the farm, both before and after the murders. People claimed to see lights turning on and off in the abandoned farmhouse late at night. The story became a cautionary tale, a warning whispered to children. It was said the family had broken old, unspoken rules, and that the forest itself had come to collect a debt. They say the woods around Hinterkaifeck hold their secrets close. To this day, the case remains officially unsolved. The mattock, the farmhouse, the files, the victims' skulls all gone. All that remains is the chilling story and the unanswerable question: who was the killer of Hinterkaifeck, and did they ever leave the woods? Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into one of history's most haunting cold cases. The story of Hinterkaifeck serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we can't explain. If you found this story as fascinating and unsettling as I do, please hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into the unknown. And be sure to share your own theories about what happened at Hinterkaifeck in the comments below. Stay curious, stay safe, and maybe check your locks tonight. Thanks for watching. Even today, visitors to the Black Forest report unsettling experiences. Imagine walking along a path, the only sound, the crunch of leaves under your feet, and suddenly, you hear a whisper, a voice calling your name. You turn, but no one is there. Modern technology is no match for this place. Cell phones die, cameras malfunction, and GPS devices fail without any warning, leaving you isolated. The very paths you walk seem to have a will of their own, shifting and changing subtly, making you question your own senses. Some people carry the forest with them long after they've left. They feel a persistent sense of being watched, a presence that follows them into their homes, their dreams, their deepest thoughts. It's a lingering fear that never quite fades, a shadow that clings to their psyche. The forest, it seems, doesn't always let you go. The old stories haven't faded, they've just found new voices. Even now, children in the region sometimes speak of a tall, shadowy figure they call Großmann, the tall man, lurking among the trees. The chilling accounts from centuries ago find echoes in their innocent descriptions. The unsettling disappearances also continue. Women, often hikers or tourists, are known to vanish for short periods, hours. Sometimes, a day only, to reappear, disoriented and fundamentally changed. They can't explain where they were or what happened, but those who know them say they are never quite the same again. Official records offer no clarity. Forestry reports detailing unusual animal behavior or strange geological findings are often classified, sealed away from public view. Formal investigations into disappearances or other strange events are launched, but the final reports are sometimes never released, buried in bureaucratic silence, leaving only speculation and fear in their wake. But you must understand, the Black Forest isn't a place of random malice. It doesn't lash out at just anyone. Its nature is responsive. It reacts to the attention it receives. The vast majority of people who pass through its ancient groves do so completely unnoticed. They stick to the marked trails, respect the quiet solitude of the woods, and leave without incident. They treat the forest with the deference an ancient, powerful place deserves. But those who don't, those who are loud, disrespectful, who pry too deeply into its secrets, well, they rarely leave empty-handed. More accurately, they leave something of themselves behind, a piece of their sanity, a fragment of their soul, an echo of their fear that becomes part of the forest's eternal memory. This is a crucial distinction to make. This is not a place haunted by the spirits of the dead. There are no restless ghosts wandering these paths in the traditional sense. It's something far older, something more fundamental. The Black Forest is a place of ancient agreements, of pacts made between forces we no longer understand. It operates on a system of rules and exchanges that predate human history. It's a living, breathing entity with a consciousness of its own, and once you've captured its attention, once you've made yourself known through disrespect or intrusion, the forest remembers. Your name, your face, your fear, it becomes part of its vast, silent consciousness. And a place like that never forgets. So, if you ever find yourself walking beneath the dense canopy of the Black Forest, remember this final warning. Do not wander off the marked paths, no matter how tempting a hidden trail may seem. Do not answer if you hear a voice calling your name from the shadows. And above all, do not make the foolish assumption that you are alone. The forest is never empty. Subscribe to Tales of the Dark, where every story gives you a new nightmare.